sliding into it. Oh, makes it over the shoulder. Catch. Didi Gregorius.
Celebrating 35 years of Carolina Mudcats baseball, I'm Chris Edwards, happy to be with John Packer, Director of Stadium Grounds. Thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm glad I could.
You've been with the Mudcats since 2002, but before you got here, I'm curious, what makes someone want to be a head groundskeeper in minor league baseball?
A little mental illness. Enjoy punishment, enjoy pain. That's a really hard question, actually. It's a hard life.
Mm-hmm.
It is hard. I'm the first one here, the last one out. A lot of days. You got to really love what you do. But if you do, it's a great career. I mean, I wouldn't trade what I've done in the 32 years that I've been in baseball. I wouldn't trade that for anything. I love what I do. I love coming into work every day. But it's not for everybody, that is for sure.
You've been here, as I mentioned, since 2002. Obviously, when you got here, the Mudcats were kind of up and running. It wasn't the start of, like we talked with Joe Kramer a couple of weeks ago. I'm curious what the process was like for you from applying to the job to getting the job and now being here for so long.
Wow, the applying, it was literally just being a pest. My wife's from this area. She was an NC State student. I got out of the Army down at Fort Bragg, so I knew the area, and I was down in Augusta at the time, and this job came open, so this was one that, being how well it lined up with everything that I really wanted, so I pursued it pretty hard, and I literally was a pest to both Joe and Eric Gardner, calling, if not every day, every other day, to say, hey, do I have the job yet? Do I have the job? And eventually, I guess they relented, and I got it, and I've been here ever since.
What are some of the misconceptions, John, about the work that you do?
I don't know. I don't know if there are a lot of misconceptions necessarily. I mean, everybody knows that groundskeepers do hard jobs.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter what sport you're in, we're the people behind the scenes. And the entertainment industry in general is not an easy industry to be in. So I think everybody kind of knows that.
Let me ask you like this. In the 30-plus years you've been in minor league baseball, been here for a couple of decades, what have been the biggest changes within the industry or within baseball or trying to get a field ready every single day?
The changes are probably the biggest thing. The changes between what a team was like coming in, even at the AA level when I got here in 2003, you'd have 20-something guys, 3 coaches, and a trainer. Now you've got 30-something guys, 6 coaches, 2 trainers, 2 strength guys, a nutritionalist, a sports psychologist, and so that the technology that's in the game now. I mean, not a lot has changed in taking care of the field. It has definitely refined. You look at a World Series field from 1978, 1980. And it looks like trash compared to even the worst minor league field now. And the stuff that the major league guys do, I mean, that's literally perfection across the board. Their worst field is amazing. And the guys that really have it down, I mean, it's absolutely incredible what they do on a day in, day out basis. And that's probably the biggest thing is, we play, at our level, we play 66 games. At the big league level, they're playing 82 home games. That's a lot of baseball. 6 games in a row is a lot of baseball.
Well, I'm even thinking about, with the A's now in Sacramento and all the wear and tear that facility is getting, where you've got a AAA team and a big league team all the time. It's got to be a groundskeeper's nightmare.
Yeah, and the players come out a lot earlier. I mean, it's 2 o'clock now, and we've got a good bit of the teams already out there. There were a lot of days, when the championship team we had in 2003, you would rarely see a player out there this early, let alone players and coaches actually working out. It's a much different game in that respect. The amount of technology that they carry with them everywhere they go, between the different radars and things to monitor what the players do, and how fast they're moving, how high they're jumping, the explosive force they're moving with, lateral explosive movement. Everything. They literally track everything and have analytics for everything.
You mentioned the championship team. There have been a lot of great players that have come through the Mudcats organization and coaches since you've been associated with the Mudcats. Is there one player or one memory or maybe one of those all-star games or special exhibitions that stand out?
The one of the players that really I remember the best through the years here was Dontrell Willis. He was one of the nicest guys I've ever met. He very great personality, was out early. You could tell he worked hard, and he was one of those guys you really felt good when he made it to the big leagues. You really felt good about him making it because you could tell he was just a well brought up young man, and you were happy to see guys like that made it. And a little sad when that pitching style couldn't quite do it any longer. But he was a great kid. He was a great kid.
I imagine as the head groundskeeper, you don't hear from players a lot unless they've got an issue with something that happened, right?
We didn't. We're actually, with the PDL and with the changes that have taken place between Major League and Minor League Baseball, we actually get feedback from the teams now. I talk to the coaches a lot more. I get actual genuine feedback from the team on whether things are good or bad, how they like it. I mean, generally most of the people like my field, but it's still good to get the feedback on if there are any issues, knowing it, which in the bad old days of minor league baseball, that just wasn't the case. I mean, I finished seasons where I was still that groundskeeper guy by the team manager, and it's not that way at all anymore.
2022 Carolina League Groundskeeper of the Year. How much pride did you take in that award?
A lot. I mean, me and my guys, we work hard out there. We're out there early. Everybody that does it at this level is good. There's no, again, this isn't the bad old days of minor league baseball. Nowadays we're playing in 50, 60, 70 million dollar stadiums. They're putting $2-3 million into a field. The expectations are very, very high. The standards are very, very high. So when you win against those kind of standards, it does feel good. And it feels good to be able to look at your guys and say, hey, they thought we were the best of what is a lot of really, really good guys.
We mentioned some of those special exhibition games, the All-Star games. Obviously, Michael Jordan came here. We've heard about Barry Bonds coming here. The Reds, when the Mudcats were a Reds affiliate, Cincinnati came here. Of those games, is there one time that you're like, hey, I met this guy, or this game really stands out? Not really. I really enjoy putting on the other events, whether they're all-star games, concerts. I like the adrenaline rush of having, something different out there, something other than what we normally do every day. I don't necessarily think about, to me, the things that stand out through the years have been the catastrophes. It's been the time that the tarp ended up staying down for 3 days. We pulled it back and you could smell the rot. And then over the course of the next 4 days, you just watched everywhere underneath the tarp slowly die. I remember those events. I remember the Greenville Braves getting mathematically eliminated from the playoffs without ever stepping foot on the field because we had taken so much rain that they couldn't. Wow.
Every day they'd get here and we'd walk around the field, and the only reason you weren't sinking up to your shins was because the grass was knit so tight, but it was literally like walking on a waterbed. That was in 2003 or 4.
Okay.
And it was right at the very end of the season. We took like 8 inches of rain over 6 days. And it wasn't hard rains. It was all day, slow, steady rains that just soaked in.
The worst kind.
And soaked in and soaked in. And it got to the point where there was nowhere else for the water to go. It couldn't soak in any further. It couldn't drain. It couldn't dry. It couldn't do anything except sit there. And the Greenville Braves literally got mathematically eliminated from the playoffs without ever swinging the bat or throwing one pitch. 4 games in a row, rained out.
That's terrible.
And it was sunny. It was a beautiful day every single day, but it was just, at that point, it was just too much rain.
The tarp, though. There's been a lot of tarp pulls in your career. You probably only remember the bad tarp pulls.
Yeah.
Is there a worse tarp pull ever?
We have one tarp pull that the wind got really bad, and we had some people get injured a little bit, and it got tore up. There is, if you talk to anybody who's been here long enough, the infamous worm tarp will typically come up. That is a product of Greenville getting rained out. We decided that the next year we were going to protect that part of the field and put the tarp in the outfield. Well, when we did that, worms came up and stuck to the bottom of the tarp. Billions of worms. The underside of the tarp was literally brown with worms.
Wow.
When we dumped the tarp, and we get what we call a tarp turd. It's all the debris off the tarp rolls off and ends up being in one long roll of stuff down the edge of the tarp. This was about as big around as a basketball and 170 feet long of worms.
Oh, that's no good.
Well, no, because that was only half to a third that came off, and the other half to a third were still stuck to the tarp when it got rolled up, and then they died and it baked. And the next time the tarp went out, it was one of the most god-awful smells anybody has ever smelled. And it is one of those things that is, to the people that remember and the people that know, you mention the worm tarp and you'll get a reaction.
A story that lives in infamy, for sure.
Yep.
In terms of technology changing, and with the tarp, with weather, I'm curious how much that's changed over the years.
That's been huge. I mean, the forecasting now is amazing. We still joke about, how inaccurate weather forecasters are, but the tools that are out there and the way we can see stuff and the up-to-the-minute radar that we have to look at is absolutely amazing compared to 20 years ago, waiting for Weather on the Ones to come on News 14, and then flipping over to the Weather Channel so you could get weather on the 6s. If you just happen to be in at the right time, you might be able to get your local forecast. And maybe if you were really lucky, you had one of the forecasters' numbers on where you could get in and give them a call if they were available and could look at stuff. But then they're just looking and going, well, yeah, I think maybe. Now, I can pull out my phone and show an umpire exactly where the radar is and know that it is very accurate. And, we make a lot of decisions, and sometimes they're wrong, but we make a lot of decisions to play through stuff knowing that, we're looking at the radar and seeing the way it is, and making the decision that we can continue to play through this.
What's the conversation like with the umpires on a usual basis? Obviously, every situation is different.
The umpires at this level are young, so we don't typically try to go out there confrontational. We try to go out there and just inform them, give them the general information, and then try to guide them in what we feel is the best decision. But ultimately, depending on what point in the day it is, determines on whose actual decision it is to make at that point.
I've been coming to Five County for a lot of years, and one of the things I love is this place, the facility, the outfield signs, the playing surface. When you sit here and look at it, it hasn't changed a whole lot in 35 years, and I think it's kind of a throwback in a lot of ways. Do you take a lot of pride in that too?
Yeah, it's a neat stadium. It really is. I mean, it's big. It's a commanding presence. You come off the interstate and make that turn, and all of a sudden you're in dead center field overlooking the wall, and you have what is a very, very large stadium just looming out there in front of you, and it's pretty cool. And we've tried very hard to keep it up and to keep it in good shape.
You also do some fireworks on the side. You've been a big part of the firework displays, and that's a big part of the history of this place, especially around July 4th and all the fireworks that go on. How much fun is that for you to sit out there and hear all the applause, and they have no idea that it's you maybe lighting it up and putting those fireworks in the sky?
Yeah, it's It's enjoyable. It is. I enjoy doing the fireworks. I've been doing them now, almost my entire baseball career. I mean, even when I was my first couple of years in baseball in Greensboro, I helped the fireworks guy there. But here, yeah, we did all our own fireworks for a bunch of years with, the national anthem, home runs and game wins, and then shot our Friday night shows, and then the 4th of July and stuff like that. And it is a lot of fun. It's a whole lot of work. It's a whole lot of extra work to put on top of the normally 30,000 steps or 35,000 steps that a normal game day is. Tack another 5,000 on for the 4th of July, and then throw another 10,000 on top of that for deciding, let's do fireworks too. Like I said, there's a little mental illness that goes on with my job.
But he's licensed, so don't try it at home.
I am state licensed. I was actually one of the very first licensed people in the state.
Yeah, see, so don't try it at home.
No.
As we wrap up, what do you want people to know or to think, or just what do you want to say to the fans that have been coming here for 3.5 decades?
Thanks for coming out. Thanks for coming out. I hope you'll continue to come out when we go to Wilson. I enjoy what I do, and a part of enjoying what I do is doing it for everybody out there. There's nothing that makes me feel better than when I can get somebody to pause when they get to the top of the hill walking into the stadium and they see my field and go, oh, wow. When we used to have the state championship out here for a bunch of years, that was one of those things. You'd see the 2 high school teams would come rolling in, and they'd come walking up the hill from the parking lot, and they'd get to the top of the hill, and they'd all just stop and be like, wow. And that's a great feeling. That's having the coaching staff, having the rovers and the different instructors and stuff come up, that always makes me feel good. Those are the guys that really know. But as far as the fans go, just thanks. Thanks for making 35 years here so special.
Thanks for all that you've done too, John. It's been great.
Well, love what I do. Appreciate it.
Really appreciate it. John Packer, Director of Stadium Grounds, as we celebrate 35 years of Carolina Mudcats baseball.